Hey Revolutionaries, I'm excited to bring you this week's episode where I'm talking about angel investing. Yeah, it's just me this time around, and I know I've been promising this for a while, but finally got it pulled together. And remember, I reference quite a few different companies and organizations in this episode. So remember, all the links will be in the show notes, so you can go to the show notes and grab all the references. But I'm sharing how I got started, why I got started, what angel investing is, and my journey up to this point so far. So make sure you check it out. And by the way, just in case the SEC is listening, this is not investment advice, okay? I'm just sharing my journey of what's been going on with me and what angel investing is all about for those of you that are interested. And most recently, talking about what went down in Israel, checking out all the venture capital and angel investing firms over there that we visited in my most recent trip. So check that out. But before we get there, real quick, I wanted to just thank everyone who's been listening out there. And remember, if you're really digging the podcast, share the episode you've just listened to with someone. Make sure you're subscribing, wherever you're listening, in your whatever podcast app you're listening to. You can hit the subscribe button there. If you're listening on YouTube, you can hit the bell. Make sure you do that. And of course, you can go to Linktree, where it's /JimJim99, where you can find all the links for the show, and that most special link where you can buy me a coffee. And I do like coffee. And so, if you really love the show and you want to show me and tell me and let me know, please go there and you can provide a donation, which helps keep the show rolling, helps pay for my podcast hosting and other things I do that revolve around the show. And also, if you have any questions or comments or feedback, you can always email me at JimJim@JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com. Okay, now on to the episode. Let's go.
Welcome to JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, JimJim.
Hey everybody, hey, this is JimJim. Welcome to episode 106 of JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today about angel investing. Yes, finally getting to the angel investing episode, and I'm going to be sharing all my secrets. Yes, I'm going to share everyone, at least what I know, and share my angel investing journey, where it came from, and what I've been up to over the past few years. And so hopefully that will give you some insight, maybe some inspiration to mess around with it yourself. But before we get there, just a reminder, keep going to Linktree, link.tree, however it goes. But, the moniker you can find the podcast under is JimJim99. So go to Linktree /JimJim99, and there you can find all the links for the podcast. And you can show your love for the podcast by buying me a coffee. And I like coffee, just so you know, okay? And when you buy me a coffee, that helps keep the podcast rolling. I got to pay for podcast hosting and some of the promotional stuff that I do. And, it takes me time to work with the guests and do all those things. So if you like the podcast, go there, show your love. That's all I'm saying. And remember, I want people that love the podcast, not that you're going to support the podcast, that's going out of your way or doing me a favor. I want people that really love it. If you're getting something out of it, let me know. Let me know what I'm doing. Let me know that what I'm doing is valuable to you. So that's why I only want people that really, really love the podcast. Okay, having said that, let's get right to angel investing. So I know there's a bunch of people who have been asking me about it, and when I tell people about it just casually, some of their eyes glaze over, and they don't understand exactly what's happening, or they think it's so far away from their common experience or what they could be doing. They don't know why they would be interested or should be interested in it. So I thought, let me just start with square one and talk about what it is, maybe how historically how it's been viewed, but how things are working with it today. And that was kind of my interest of why I was I kind of got interested in it. So, okay, here we go. I just dialed up Investopedia here. So Investopedia.com, they have some kind of okay definitions of angel investing. Okay, so what is it? What is an angel investor? An angel investor provides initial seed money for startup businesses. Pretty basic here. Usually in exchange for ownership equity in the company. So pretty much that's what it is. It's working with early stage businesses that are just getting started, and they need some funding and some backing to help scale. And usually they would go out to their friends and family to maybe start the business just privately, so you're not on the public markets yet. There's been no IPO, initial public offering, etc. You're just getting going, and you need some funding. And I like Shelley Hadmoyal's definition of what an angel investor is. And if you listen to her episode, it's JJRR episode number 76, JJRR episode 76, where I interviewed Shelley, and Shelley's one of the founders of iAngels, which is part of my investing journey, angel investing journey, which I'll mention more about here coming up. But she describes it as bringing the kiss of life to companies instead of the kiss of death. So she thinks of an angel of like, hey, bringing the kiss of life to these new companies. And so what does that mean? It means putting in money, obviously. It's a different type of financing versus getting a line of credit, for example, with a bank, where if you can show cash flow and you can show purchase orders and stuff, you might be able to go to a bank and get a business loan, right? Because you have some collateral that you can show the bank that you can get a loan. But if you don't have any collateral, if you just have an idea and you have to do a lot of upfront work, maybe 2 or 3 years of work even before your first customer even, that's a riskier bet, and that's sort of the playground of angel investing. And so just to further give you some definitions here, what's the origin of the term angel investor? So this is what Investopedia says anyways. It says it comes from the term originated in the Broadway theatrical world, which I hadn't heard this before, where plays were often financed by wealthy individuals rather than formal lenders, and payments were due only when and if the production was a success. So that makes a lot of sense. So, you have to put in a lot of investment up front to produce a show before any money starts coming in, before you can sell any tickets. And then who knows if the show is going to be a hit and sell any tickets. So there's a big risk there. So I guess that's how it got started. And the term angel investor was used by, I guess, the University of New Hampshire's William Wetzel, founder of the Center for Venture Research, way back when he started a study on how entrepreneurs gathered capital. So again, it's another little reference from Investopedia. So a little bit of historical reference there and where the name comes from. But who can be an angel investor? I guess so. When I talk to just other people that aren't in this scene out there, they're like, I don't know what that means. I'm not interested. I never fancied myself that I could be an angel investor. Well, you can be, believe it or not. And you just have to have a genuine interest and desire, and of course money. So those three things. But anyone basically who has money and the desire, generally speaking, can be an angel investor. However, historically, angel investing and private equity investing more generally has been limited to what is known as accredited investors. Okay, so somewhere along the line, the SEC came up with this rough definition of what an accredited investor is. And some of those, I guess the common definition, I don't know if it's so specific, but a common definition from the SEC is that it's an individual who has a net worth of $1 million or more in assets, or has $200,000 of earned income in the previous 2 years. And that's for an individual or a couple for a combined of $300,000. So I don't know where they come up with these numbers, and I don't know, if it makes sense these days with inflation and the way the economy is working. I think the intent was to try to, encourage people that were more sophisticated, that had money to lose, et cetera, because these are risky ventures if you're an angel investor. Maybe the more sinister take is to try to keep others out, that it's for us and not for you, people that don't have as much money. But the good news, if you perceive it as good news, is that angel investing is now more accessible by more people and at lower amounts, lower minimums. So in some cases, maybe $500, $1,000, $1,500, you can start angel investing through the right entity or channel or venue or company that provides angel investing opportunities. So that's what's different today, where before it was kind of like word of mouth. The companies weren't so visible, but things have been changing, and so that's what's neat about it. That's one of the reasons why I had Shelley on again, episode JJRR 76 a couple of years ago by now, talking about her new venture, iAngels, which is a angel investing company that she co-founded. And again, it's bringing angel investing around the world, accessible through a website, etc. So we'll get to more of that in a second here. All right, so that's what angel investing is. That's what's going on with it. We talked about what what a accredited investor was. Okay, going down my list of things here. So let's get to how did I start angel investing and why. So, I've been in the stock market for a long time. When I got out of school, I started working for General Motors, a public company. They had their own stocks. I got interested in the stock market in general. Get some coffee here. And so it was interesting. I thought it was just really cool, and just the nature of my job, being in advanced engineering, I could kind of understand what's driving the economy and human behavior and how technology was going to affect different industries and those kinds of things. So just working in the stock market realm made sense to me, and analyzing businesses. So I've been doing that for a long time, and along those lines, back in 2016, 17, 18, blockchain started becoming, I guess, more out there in the public, along with all the cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And there was a local conference here in Northeast Ohio called Blockland. So I started going to those meetings. When they were preparing for the conference, I went to the conference. And through the connections in that conference, I got turned on to this company, iAngels, who was doing a presentation here locally and doing an investor day. And because some of those people that were in the crypto space were also in the venture capital space, the startup space, etc. And, I've been to Silicon Valley many times. I've been around other startup companies, whatever, but I was never an investor in them. I was always just working with the public markets. And partially maybe because I perceived that angel investing was far away from me. Maybe you needed lots of more money. Maybe you needed to know the right people and those kinds of things. And back, way back when, 15, 20 years ago, I think that was actually the case. Not so much these days, I would say. So I went to this meeting, and Shelley from iAngels was there, and they gave a presentation, and they gave a presentation of all their portfolio companies. And I thought, oh, this is interesting, and I realized, this is closer than I thought. Maybe I could be part of this. And what kind of blew me away was a colleague that I'd worked with in the engineering world was there, as he was working for one of the portfolio companies at that time. Arbe Robotics is the name of the company. And so he was working on laser radar, LiDAR, for electric vehicles. And I was like, hey, man, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I'm working for so-and-so now. And I knew him in a previous life when he worked for a previous company for an engineering project I was working on. So that was another little connection that kind of made me want to look more into what was really going on with iAngels and the portfolio companies that they were representing, they're working with, that was part of their, cohort. And so after that meeting, I started researching, and I figured out, you know what, I'm going to try this. So I kind of dove in first with iAngels. And so they are a venture capital company. You can search them out there, iAngels.co or .com, whatever their website is, and see what they do. But they provide opportunities for you to invest. Here's their little tagline from their website here. We are iAngels, your gateway to investing in Israeli innovation. So they're based in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and all their companies are basically in Israel or related to founders in Israel. So I thought, this is interesting, and I always knew Israel as a second kind of Silicon Valley, another hotspot of startups and venture around the world. I just knew that just being in the engineering world. And I thought, this is cool. Maybe I'll learn about this too as I dive into this angel investing journey. So that's what I did. So I'm gonna look at my portfolio. I got it pulled up right now. I want to see the date. So my first investment in one or two of their companies was back in September 2019. So it's what are we at? We're in the middle of the year 2023 here. So it's at about 4 years ago, and fully invested. And one of the things to learn about angel investing, I guess, is it's not the stock market, so it's not liquid. Now, you can't just buy and sell on a daily basis. When you put money in, the money's locked up, and you have to wait for liquidation events. Basically, if the company goes public, if another company buys the company that you're invested in, and so there's an exchange of equities there in stock, so that would be a liquidation event. You can potentially get your money out if other investors want to come in, and that's part of the role that iAngels play as the matchmaker and manager of the company's investments and of the funds they offer. So there's ways to get your money in, ways to get your money out, but it's not as liquid as the stock market is. You kind of have to work with them, and it might be 7, 8, 10 years until there's a liquidation event. And hopefully you've made money by then. So again, this is early stage companies. Sometimes these companies just go to zero. You just have to understand that there are risks, and the risks are different from stock market style investing. But I want to learn about it. I like technology. I like early stage companies and kind of funding the future is the way I think about it, and making bets on how I see the world. I guess that's the fun part for me is I think I can understand certain technology niches and see what they're doing and understand human behavior, what's valuable actually out in the world from a customer point of view. It's not all about technology. That's only part of it. And so it's fun for me. It's fun to obviously, have it profitable, make some money, but it's also fun to keep my mind engaged in what's really happening in the world. Helps me understand the world more and just benefits me in a personal way. Anyways, that's how I got started with iAngels, and back in 2019, and I kept searching around. And by the way, iAngels was founded by Shelly Hadmoyal and Mor Assia, so two women out of Israel. Just wanted to mention that, and they founded it back in 2014. There you go, 2014. So it's kind of a newer version of how to do angel investing, right? Working with them. Along the same lines, since I started diving into angel investing, I started searching out there. I'm like, there's got to be more places and more ways to do this, and I found that there's actually a ton more now. If you start looking around and start, through the internet webs and people talking, people that are looking for money will start to find you, knowing that you're an investor. But there's also another, basically, organization out of the Silicon Valley area known as AngelList that was founded in 2010 by Naval Ravikant and Babak Nivi. I'm not sure I'm saying those names right. But AngelList, angelist.co. So it's another organization that I've been working with and using them to invest similarly in startup companies, private companies. And again, back in I think at the end of 2019, I started, or maybe early in 2020, I think it was, I started with them. So I have maybe about 9 investments with them, maybe 3 or 4 with iAngels. And again, it's not as much money as you think initially, especially with AngelList. They have lower minimums, and they're speaking to a different part of the market, trying to kind of democratize angel investing. So about 9 investments, it's maybe 15, 20K max, but it's, 1,500 here, 500 there, whatever, with many different companies. it's a little more scattershot approach with them. These are very early stage companies. Again, this is not. This should not be the main part of your portfolio. Okay, if you're an investor overall. But it's fun to learn and figure out what's going on, and keeps me thinking about the world the right way. So it actually informs my stock market investing in a better way, in my opinion. So you kind of see what's going on in the early stages. You see what's really working, and then if you understand that the larger companies that are already public are moving in those same directions that you see working in the startup world, it's probably a safer, better bet. So it all works in concert with each other. All the things I'm looking at. But I found them, AngelList, and started with them, and so you might want to check them out. And that was back in 2020. So now, fast forward a few years, and my interest is growing in this area, and trying to figure it out. And so most recently, when I heard about this Israel trip that was coming up, which if you've listened to the last episode, or maybe the last couple episodes, I've been mentioning it, where local university here was going to go to Israel to visit Israel, but also specifically to visit venture capital firms in Israel as part of the graduate business program at John Carroll. So I was like, oh, wow, cool. And there was a way that I could go as a community member, and I knew some other folks at John Carroll previously, so the connection was made, and I jumped in on this trip. And so I'm going to tell you about all the stuff that was happening over there, what's happening there. And again, this is paralleled in other parts of the world, but very interesting what's happening in Israel, and they have a unique take and a unique environment because of just how unique historically Israel is, and the structure of their society, and the structure of the country. So here we go. So here's the Israel part. And I'm going to dial up my Travel Zone app. So shout out to International Study Program company that does these tours for universities. They have a Travel Zone app, and it saves the itinerary of what happened here. So when we went, and it was a massive itinerary, jam-packed from morning till night, touring all over Israel, hitting all the cultural spots. But this one day was basically the big venture capital, angel investing, startup accelerator type of day. And here's how we started. So we started with iAngels. So we visited iAngels, and the meeting visited with iAngels, and the meeting was at the Meta, i.e. Facebook headquarters in Tel Aviv. And so they hosted, and because we were there, they actually decided to host more generally an LP day, a limited partner day, meaning so they called it the LP Investor Summit. So I was there kind of in dual roles. I was part of the LP Summit because I'm an LP. And if you don't understand that, the GP, general partner, that's what iAngels is. So the GP takes on more risk and responsibility, especially in regard to SEC rules and liability that way. They take on all the liability. As a GP, as a limited partner, your responsibility is basically the money that you would put into the investments, and so you're limited in that way. That's why they call it LP. Okay, so GP and LP. So I was there in two roles, as an LP, but also as a community member with John Carroll. So it was great. And so the full morning was jam-packed with fireside chats, presentations of all their portfolio companies. So it was really cool. And I'm not going to go down the list of all their portfolio companies, but I am going to mention one just because it was just so interesting and give you a flavor of, these are all new, cutting edge, kind of by definition, these are startup companies that are leveraging all the new technologies that are out there that, maybe are not mature yet, or that people have a different take on that another larger company is not working on. And so one of their companies is called Binah.ai, Binah, Binah.ai. And the space they're working in is the healthcare space. Excuse me. And they are the number one health and wellness check software, making health data more accessible for better care, lower costs. So it was really cool. They had the CEO, David Mamet, present. Really brilliant guy, PhD from MIT, I believe. And what they're working on is a software app that works with your smartphone, works with the camera and all the sensors on your smartphone that can start looking into your face and your eyes and your body and start doing more standard routine tests such as blood pressure, heart rate variability, breathing rate, oxygen saturation, sympathetic stress, parasympathetic activity, pulse respiratory, maybe even cholesterol counts, hemoglobin. So there are ways of looking into your body, believe it or not, and this is the technology part that they're figuring out, that basically it's not invasive. You don't have to pull blood or anything like that. And you can start to measure some of these things that are only measurable now currently with, you have to draw blood and go to your local hospital there to do that procedure. So they're saying, like, introducing groundbreaking bloodless blood tests where you can measure hemoglobin A1C, and cholesterol totals. Amazing. So that was cool company. So it's just to give you a flavor of, all the interesting things that are happening over there. And we saw, there were probably 10 or 12 companies there on the different panels throughout the morning. And it was amazing. And so, iAngels, the two founders, one is a finance expert, the other one is a technology expert. And so they have startups in the engineering world, in the software SaaS world, and also in the crypto world. So this day was more focused on in the healthcare and wellness space. But they have companies from all these niches, I guess. And so they're more sort of a full service angel investing firm that has a variety of things they're working in. And you'll see the difference. The reason we went to all these different places was to give us an idea, the cohort from in the business school here, of the breadth and depth of different styles of angel investment and venture capital firms in Israel. So this was one. So that was our morning, and it was a jam-packed morning. Then we did lunch, and right away we ended up at our next stop, which was Tel Aviv University, the Coller School of Management at Tel Aviv University. They call it the Coller, Coller, C-O-L-L-E-R, Coller Institute of Venture. And the person that presented, that was a speaker that presented to us, was Leslie Brado-Mitz. So she's head of the Coller Institute of Venture and the SOFAIR Global MBA program at Tel Aviv University. So it was interesting to see that there's venture activity fully integrated into the university, Tel Aviv University. So that I just thought that was interesting. And Leslie came from, she was educated in the United States. She was also built and led the largest entrepreneurship practicum at the Wharton School, which is UPenn, I believe, Wharton School for High Growth Ventures, prior to moving to Tel Aviv. And one of the interesting things about her was that her PhD is in anthropology from the University of Pennsylvania. So she has her MBA, an undergraduate from the Wharton School with a concentration in decision sciences, but her PhD is in anthropology. And so she talked a lot about, building this ecosystem in Israel and, kept connecting it to the world. And so she's really understands human behavior, obviously, right? And that's a big part of investing that I figured out over the years, just whether you're investing in the stock market, venture capital, angel investing, whatever it is. Human behavior plays a big role. And I think, a lot of people who are just getting into it get lost in the numbers and PE ratios and growth rates and revenue and profit margins and all those kind of technical terms and the numbers about it. But in the end, especially if you're a long-term investor and not a trader, it's really about human behavior. It's like, what do we want to do and what do we want more of going forward? And what are the drivers that are pushing us in all these different directions? So I think she makes a very unique. She has a unique background to be leading the head of the Coller Venture Institute and the MBA program at Tel Aviv University. So it was a great presentation. She had a couple examples of some of the students and some of the students' companies that they started from the school there. So that was another just different flavor of what's happening in Israel and where some maybe opportunities are to find, again, early-stage companies and maybe find some angel investment opportunities for yourself if you're looking around. Check out Tel Aviv University. Man, that would have been a full day already, but we still had a couple stops to go and super deep, technical high-end places. So here was the next one. After that, we went over to visit this company called Team 8. Yeah, Team8.vc. Another style type of venture capital angel investing company. What's interesting about these guys is that they're also business builders. So they take an active role in building your business, maybe finding you an executive team, training you how to do product development, service development, whatever it might be, whatever the style business is, as well as providing capital and investing and connecting you with investors. And they have an interesting story about they're focused in cybersecurity. That's how they came together. They're really in that space. And Israel is a, generally speaking, is a subject matter expert in cybersecurity, maybe for obvious reasons, because there's a lot of people in the world that try to attack them all the time. But one of their big cybersecurity firms, CrowdStrike, started in Israel, and people might know that name as they're a very successful company around the world that provides cybersecurity services. But a lot of the members that founded Team 8 and work with Team 8 have come from the Israel Defense, IDF, how do you say that? Israel Defense Forces, that's it, the IDF, which is their military. And usually probably from the 82nd, 8200 Division, 8200, IDF 8200. So that's the famous group within the IDF that does cybersecurity and intelligence. So they get great training in the military, and when they come out, they want to keep, leveraging that training and helping the world in various different ways within the cybersecurity world and with all related companies that might spin out of their expertise. And they're team builders, so it's really cool. So we heard from the CEO, Chief Operating Officer, Roy Heldstein, and again, it was a different flavor of how to build a venture capital firm by really offering larger services and really being able to build a business. So if you're a founder and you're struggling, you don't know how to, you need money, sure, but maybe you need more expertise, and maybe you need smart money rather than dumb money, right? From people that are experienced that can actually help you build your business. These guys are interesting to think about and check out. And again, they have a large portfolio of companies, names like 40Cs, Angelist, April, Ballerine, Clarity. Just go to their website and check out what they have going on. So that was another great presentation, just very experienced people. And they have, for these guys in particular, they have a different compensation model where they take a little bit less up front and they take more on the back end. So sometimes with these funds, they'll take like a 20% cut basically when there's a liquidation event. These guys take a smaller piece up front, but larger piece later. I can't remember what the timing was in their terms, but just have a different model, and they do they share equity with their employees, so that's kind of fun too. So when they have a success, when they have a liquidation event of one of their companies that maybe goes public or gets bought, all their employees share in the success and the win. So it's fun to hear how they are working at their firm. Okay, let's see what else is next here. Finally, at the end of the day, we went to AND Ventures. This is also in Tel Aviv, so we were in Tel Aviv most of the day here. And a place called AND Ventures, so and-ventures.com. Again, all these links will be in the show notes. I'll have them there for everybody to check out if you're interested. And again, this was another flavor of angel investing venture capital firm, where these guys, the founders, were very schooled in the U.S. and worked for the big tech companies in the U.S. such as Google. So I'm just going to read a little bit of Roy Glassberg, who was one of the managing partners and founder that presented to us, his background here, because it's pretty interesting. So it says, before founding A&D Ventures, Roy founded and managed Google's global acceleration programs all over the world, basically in Latin America, Asia, Africa, all the different regions. Google Corporate Development and Unicorn Accelerator, the Google AI Studio, and Google Sustainability Accelerator. In the last 3 years, he's built Google Global Mentoring Program for Startups and Global Manager of Launchpad Google Startup Program, scaling it to over 40 countries. So so he's got just a little bit of background in startups and understanding technology, especially in the software world. And so, again, sort of the flavor of this company is they're a little more hands-on. They're going to help you build your business, but they're going to find you venture funding. And so you might feel maybe a little more comfortable with some of the companies that they're helping develop because of their deep experience really working in the same world and building the same types of things in the United States. But at some point, basically, I think Roy, like most of, I think, mid-career people, at some point you think, like, am I locked in for the long term here? Or do I want to keep working and making someone else rich? Or am I fed up with the politics of the big corporate world or whatever? Well, I think he was all of those things, questioning himself, and he was like, you know what? I know how to do this. I'm going to come back. I'm going to build it in Israel. He's super excited, super interesting guy, really creative guy, too, in terms of just his vision. And so it was another great presentation. Of course, they have their just laundry list of portfolio companies. Go to their website and check them out, like Ludio, Infinigro, OneBeat, OVO, Connected Insurance, VineSight. Okay, so that was our one day that we spent going to learn about venture capital companies, the different flavors of VCs that are out there, their different investing styles, approaches, their more or less hands-on parts of actually building the businesses that they also invest in. So that was kind of interesting, and seeing their niches, their expertise that they have and the companies that they like to develop and work with. Like I said, Team 8 is more coming from the cybersecurity world. iAngels is a little bit more of full service, all niches, including crypto, and is more, kind of background in Google and the big tech in the United States. So pretty interesting. Maybe that gives you some flavor if you're interested in diving into venture capital or angel investing yourself. Check some of these places out. Some are more high-end, some are more medium-end, some are more entry-level in terms of where you're at and what funds you might have available for angel investing. And again, I'll just say that, for me, it's been over the last 4 years, I haven't had any big liquidation events yet, but on paper, I've been fairly successful with a couple of the investments that I've had. But I do believe that that's based on my experience of being in engineering and technology and understanding, this is the right move for me. This is the right company. All these other companies are not the right company. I can't understand them. I don't know that niche, whatever it might be. You got to be very careful, I think, when it comes to angel investing. It's not for everyone. And if you haven't explored other types of investing, like the stock market or buying a rental property or real estate, something like that might be easier to get into first, maybe less risky to get into first. But so far, angel investing and venture capital and just being around really smart, interesting, innovative, creative thinkers, that's really what turns me on. What's kind of, I guess, is my allure for it. That brings me closer to it. It's just like, it's fun. I want to keep around those types of people, even though I don't work in the advanced, technology development groups of a corporation anymore, or I don't working so directly with any of those advanced development projects with my consulting business, JimJim's Group. Kind of pivoting a little bit, trying to figure out what's next here as the reinvention continues. But I want to stay connected to those people because that's just what makes me happy. I like talking to them. I like hanging around with them because their minds are open. They have great visions. They see the world differently. They're moving fast, and that's where I want to be. I don't want to be steamrolled by fear and anxiety. Nope. I want to stay on the other side of and stay positive in the world. So hopefully that helps you figure out a little bit more about angel investing and venture capital. Tells you about what's been happening in my journey as it continues. So if you're interested, check out the links that will be in the show notes about any of those companies. And if you got any questions that you want to shoot me, feel free. And by the way, let me jump back in here with just a quick disclaimer so the SEC doesn't come after me. Remember, I'm not recommending, I'm not sharing any investment advice. I'm not a financial advisor in any way. I'm just sharing with you my personal experience of angel investing, what it is, what my journey's been so far. And so, if you have an interest, you can check out those companies, but I'm certainly not recommending them. You need to make your own decisions on your own investing journey and whether angel investing or any other type of investing is right for you. So just let me say that. Okay. All right. We'll catch you next time, everybody. Bye. Thank you for listening to JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com. See you next time. And remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of. Hey, revolutionaries, if you enjoyed today's episode and today's guest, let them know by commenting on their Facebook page, finding their Twitter handle or Instagram feed, and letting them know you heard them on JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, and tell them what you got out of the episode, what you really liked, or how they inspired you. I know they would get a kick out of it, and will help others find the same value that you found.